with that, I think it's cricket time. So we kick off with cricket. We mentioned it in the intro. The IPL final happened. We will start there and review that. The T20 World Cup has just kicked off as well. About a week into games for the what we call it, play-in tournament.
Associate Nations, play-in tournament. Essentially the minnows, but Sri Lanka and Bangladesh out there trying to get in. I did see a few good memes getting around about being sports tragics and whatever, and the missus being in your ear about doing whatever chore you've got to do, and hang on, I just got to catch this last over of Oman versus Papua New Guinea. Some really exciting stuff. But we will get stuck into that in just a second. But first, let's have a look back at the IPL final. Chennai Super Kings coming away with their fourth title in IPL 14. They batted first. They made 3 for 192, one of the biggest scores we've seen since the resumption of the IPL in the Emirates. Young gun Ruturaj Gaikwad continued his good form before hauling out to Sunil Narine. We had highlighted his impact and he bowled very well. But unfortunately, the rest of the Knight Riders couldn't really emulate him with the ball. Lockie Ferguson and Varun Chakravarthi absolutely copped it. And it was by a man by the name of Faf du Plessis, 86 off 59. Also a little bit of help from Udhapa and Moeen Ali. And that really set them up for that big score. And then the Knight Riders, in return, they actually got off to an awesome start through Venkatesh Iyer and Shubman Gill, both making 50s. But it was a weird one because Iyer got dropped by Dhoni on naught, and it was an absolute sitter. And we'll have a little chat about Dhoni in a second. And then a real weird one with Shubman Gill. He hit the cable of the spider cam, the webcam that flies around giving you the footage from above, and got caught, and it got ruled a dead ball, which is the rule. If you hit the stadium in an indoor, the roof of the stadium in an indoor stadium or anything up there, it does get ruled a dead ball. So a few little things that swung the Knight Riders' way, but then when those two both got out, it was an absolute shambles. They started falling like flies, and we're talking about good bats in Nitish Rana, Owen Morgan, who the captain didn't really show much throughout the whole tournament. Dinesh Karthik, Shakib Al Hassan, they all fell without making double digits. And it was good to see Aussie Josh Hazlewood playing pretty well. And the Lord, Shardul Thakur, also picked up a few wickets. And in the end, the Super Kings won pretty comfortably. Didn't get a last over thriller, but they deserved it. It was them and the Delhi Capitals really, throughout the end of the season being quite dominant. So congrats to them. Dhoni, he's 40 years old. He's definitely showing his age a little bit. This may have been the last time that he's played in the IPL, boys. What did we think about him?
Well, besides having a great career, I was just having a quick Google. Chris Gale is 42. So he's not to say that he can't do some mercenary services and just go around where he needs and just get paid. It's not like he has to, if he's keeping, he's not like he expecting him to do much, stand on one end, try to hit sixes and keep in the field. Like, they're not asking a lot of the body, so he could potentially play an extra year or two. But otherwise, international test level throughout the entire game, he's been excellent at all those levels. So if it is his time and he's starting to give away the game completely, then that's an excellent career for him.
Indeed, one of the best white ball players of all time, and synonymous with India and the IPL. So if it is the last time that we've seen him, congrats on a great career. But you are right, just has to keep wicket and go out and try and do what he does and finish games. But I don't know. For me, it was the first time that I'd seen Dhoni noticeably slower, both behind the stumps and with the bat. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll obviously slide straight into some kind of coaching or media role. You'd imagine a massive name in the subcontinent. And speaking of massive names, Faf du Plessis, he was man of the match. I think he was the second highest run scorer throughout the tournament. And Monks, if you just wouldn't mind searching, Cricket South Africa put out a congratulations, I think, to Ndidi, who didn't play a single game for the Super Kings, but forgot to mention Faf du Plessis. There's been a bit of back and forth with them on Twitter, a bit of bad blood. Faf will not be playing in the World Cup. He has chosen to just play club T20 cricket of late, and that's, I think, where the falling out is around. Marks, have you got any news surrounding the falling out between Faf and Cricket South Africa?
Has Cricket South Africa, before you answer that, sorted out their governance problems yet?
Mate, fuck if I know, because Faf isn't playing, and AB de Villiers, who we saw as well in the IPL, had a little bit of a quiet tournament. He's not playing in this T20 World Cup. So that changes the dynamic a lot. You look at their team on paper, it's pretty good. You add those two in it and you start thinking about them as contenders. So as Australians that are in a group with them, as well as England and the West Indies, it's good news for us. But going back to the I think there's a bit of back and forth on Twitter. Monks, have you got any information for us?
Nothing too much further to add. So yeah, obviously, pretty soon after the match, Cricket South Africa sent out a quick little tweet, as you mentioned, congratulating, what was his name? Ndidi. That's it. Yeah. For winning the IPL. Obviously, as you mentioned, hadn't played. And yeah, I guess it did kick up a little bit of a stink over Twitter, over socials, probably between Faf and them, and also a lot of other players and I guess just general public. So yeah, after that, the CSA put out another post congratulating Faf as well, and pointing out that he was man of the match as well. So I think they've tried to smooth it over, but yeah, probably to Sean's point, with governance, it's just a hot mess at the moment from the sounds of it.
Yeah,
it's starting to become like the West Indies management or board, I should say, in that they're trying to get their guys to play these white ball tournaments for not much money, and then coming down hard when they do chase a bit of coin, and so they should, going to play the big club T20 tournaments like the IPL. But I just don't understand how you could go into a World Cup and not have a guy like Faf there. But yeah, very, very interesting. It'll be and it'll be telling to see what happens. I'm not too concerned about us. We'll get stuck into that in just a second. But England and the West Indies, you'd think, will be a lot stronger than South Africa on paper.
Yeah, I agree. And just to confirm, there was, I think it was late April, early May, there was a vote to put in a new governance structure, best practice in South Australia and international, supposedly. So it sounds like they resolved their governance issue and won't get banned. That's why they're obviously playing in the T20 World Cup. So they have sorted it out, but not to say that there is, the best practice going forward. But we'll have to wait and see. I just want to go back to this game, of course, because I don't want to say we overlooked the Super Kings or whether the Super Kings kind of came into this a bit quiet, because I think everyone, myself, I'll point myself directly, was very much thinking the Knight Riders on their ride and the momentum they had running into that final could potentially take it all away. But then, the Super Kings just came out and dominated. And I think good old mate Rikin Patel was talking about, he thinks the Super Kings are going to win that easy. Well, they kind of did after they had got through the openers and got that massive collapse where they, as you said, 6 guys didn't make double figures. So they really ran through them. So maybe a little bit of anticlimactic end to the tournament there. With the Super Kings doing it easy in that second half of their second innings. But a good end to the tournament overall, I would say. One of the better teams definitely there. Of course, another team that had won multiple tournaments as well, got 4. I don't know. It's not something I can get super excited about and we go like, yeah, fuck yeah. It's more just like, okay.
It was a little anticlimactic. Obviously, everyone wants to see it go down to the last over, but 27 runs or whatever. It wasn't a complete blowout either. I think as well for us, it's probably the most invested we've ever been in the IPL. I do remember IPL 1. I think I was 16 and staying up all night to watch, what was at the time kind of absurd to see all the world's best cricketers playing in the IPL. And I probably haven't been as excited about it since then. Obviously, us starting a podcast, and having a little bit of back and forth with, the Delhi Capitals brings you right into it. But you can just see how far and beyond any other level of competition it is. It's akin to the Champions League, I think, in soccer, in that you're watching teams that would go out and beat most international teams. And the standard of cricket was unbelievable. So looking forward to the next one. It's a short turnaround because of the COVID impact. I think the auction is within the next month or so, and then the IPL 15 should be kicking off about April next year. So not a massive time to wait for IPL 15. Monks, have you got the best bats and bowlers from the tournament? We obviously saw the breakout of Ruturaj Gaikwad. He'll be one to watch for India coming forward. Faf du Plessis, I believe, finished second amongst the run scorers. And if you just wouldn't mind running us through maybe the top 5 run scorers and the top 5 wicket takers.
Just before you do that auction's between December and January is when they're planning.
A couple months away.
Yep. So going back to stats for IPL, so as you said, Gaikwad scored the most runs at 635. Faf came in second at 633.
2 runs in it.
Yeah, that's it. So I'll go back to Gaikwad. His high score was 101.
Yeah.
Faf was there at 95, not out. Behind them we had KL Rahul at 626, so still only a few runs behind Faf
Top playing finals, so massive tournament there from KL Rahul.
Yeah. Considering how the Kings, I guess, went throughout the leagues, definitely carried them. His high score was 98. After them, we had Shikhar Dhawan sitting there at 587, so starting to drop off a little bit there. And to round out the top 5, we had our Glenn Maxwell at 513.
Yeah, good to see him killing it. No real big scores, I don't think, from Maxi, but just very consistent with making 50s, making them quick, and good to see that running into the World Cup. And he, in IPL 13, was very, very lackluster. So good to see him get a bit of form. Would you mind running us through just the top few bowlers and maybe a few to look out for in the World Cup?
Yeah. So I'll go top 5 again. I'm going to mint some of these names as well. I'm not as good as you there, Peps. So we had Hashwell Patel with 32 wickets, taking out first place. After him,
by a long way, wasn't it? At RCB, he was a fair few ahead of the next, wasn't he?
Yeah. So we have Avish Khan sitting at 24.
Delhi Capitals.
Yep, Delhi Capitals. Yep. And then after him, we had Jasprit Bumrah and Shardul Thakur both at 21 wickets. Yep. And then rounding out the top 5, we had Mohammad Shami at 19.
How interesting is that? The top 5 wicket takers, all Indians. So big money spent on a few of the internationals. We saw Sunil Narine, the West Indian, come into some form towards the end of the tournament. But the top 5, all Indians. Look, we're going to talk about the World Cup in a second, but it seems like anything less than making a final, if not winning it, is an underachievement for this Indian side.
I reckon it sounds like it, yeah. I just want to quickly go back to Dhoni. You mentioned that he'd probably slot straight into some sort of coaching duties if he does finally retire from all forms. on Twitter today. So India and Australia were having a warm-up match. He was spotted giving keeping drills to punt off on the side of the field. So yeah, or he's sitting there ready to go, I guess.
Be nice, wouldn't it? You know, you finish up and it's all laid out for you. Obviously, one of the most accomplished Indian cricketers of all time. You'd imagine just slots straight into a coaching role there.